I haven't started recording.
Did you do it? Start recording.
Let me turn up the thingy.
Start doing it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, do it now.
Why?
Do it now.
I
feel like Anakin Skywalker
Why?
said that.
Why did I do it now? Why not now?
Put that cookie down.
So I'm kind of dead inside.
What are you waiting for? Do it now. Kill me.
Because instead of going to prom last night, I stayed up until 2 o'clock in the morning recording a Let's Play, so I hope you're all grateful for that.
No one is, David. But I'm especially not grateful for it.
This really makes me want to do another one.
Anyway.
Yay!
Well, yeah, I can't wait. I think you should, get off your ass and edit it. I mean, do finals tomorrow, and then after that,
yes,
get
I
to
have
work.
finals tomorrow that I'm not studying for.
You've been slacking on those uploads. I'm ashamed of you.
You're not my boss.
No, but I am your real father.
No, you're not. You were born after me. I'm older than you. How can you be my father?
Wait, are you older than me?
Yeah, I told you. Remember we discussed this.
Oh, yeah, you're like 2 months older than I am.
Because you were born in summer of 99, and I was born...
No, I was born in summer of 98.
What? I don't remember. I'm confused. I don't care.
Okay.
Whatever. This is not what we're supposed to be talking about. And
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Subject Change Episode 2.
Stop interrupting me.
Today we're going to talk about a whole bunch of dumb shit. What do you got for us today, David?
Stop interrupting me. This is literally
for episode 1. Everyone who's here now from episode 1 just heard you interrupt me like 30 times. So
this
now
is
the tables have turned.
This is exactly what I was trying to avoid when I decided to revamp the plan and all this stuff, is that, first of all, interrupting all the time, me interrupting you, you interrupting me, and also talking about completely irrelevant things. So let's move on. Welcome to episode 2.
Move on to what? We haven't even started yet!
I'm ashamed of you.
Okay, alright, ready? 1.
So welcome to episode 2, Subject Change, and hopefully this time will be slightly better. I mean, realistically, if it were just me, it would be really good, but of course we have to have that loser here too.
Oh boy. You're picking fights now, are ya? Okay, that's how this is gonna go.
I've had a lot of sugar before recording this, so I'm in that kind of mood. So, first of all, we're going to be talking about...
candy bar, you'll be awake for weeks.
Stop it!
I am not gonna stop interrupting you!
So next of all, we're going to be talking about what we've been watching / reading. Okay, and I go first, because I'm the leader of this podcast. Now, I've been watching a lot of Star Trek lately, because I really like Star Trek. Of course, I'm a science fiction fan, but... Also, I've been watching a lot of Deep Space Nine lately because I realized that because I didn't really have a lot of VHSs of Deep Space Nine back when I was a wee lad, and I just had a couple of...
A wee baby, David?
Yeah. Back when I just had some VHSs that my mom had recorded from back when it was on broadcast in the 90s. Yeah, remember when, what was it? Remember when you recorded VHSs instead of having a DVR? Wasn't that nice?
My dad did that 3 times a day. He would just record 6 hours of TV on a tape, and he would just had it constantly cycling out. He had a videotape corresponding to basically every show that he was watching between 1996 and 2004. And then he discovered he could just torrent everything.
Okay, so yeah, Deep Space Nine, I didn't really ever watch it all the way through. A lot of people don't like Voyager as much as Deep Space Nine, but I've always been a Voyager fan. So, it was with some interest that I decided to just go through and watch the whole thing. And I was surprised because usually with Star Trek, especially 90s Star Trek, the first couple seasons are garbage. And then as they slowly figure things out, they go through a lot of screenwriters, a lot of showrunners until they finally hit their groove, and then it goes from
Don't they also switch out cast occasionally, background characters either stay or go sometimes?
Sometimes. Not
Yeah.
always. They didn't do that with The Next Generation, but they did that with Voyager and Deep Space Nine. But
I mean,
more
the
to
first
the point,
episode of Star Trek had a whole different captain.
well, that's a completely different story because that was a pilot that NBC decided not to air. But then they
And then
said
they
said-
repackaged it later as
No.
a bunch of flashbacks, right?
No. Well, kind of. But then they said, okay, let's do another pilot, and then they had a new captain, and they hit their groove with that with a bit more. But more to the
Or
point,
whoever played Riker, or whatever his name was.
stop it. Stop trying to derail this conversation.
I'm not. I'm having a conversation with you like a human being instead of just listening to you ramble about Deep Space Nine. I'm being engaged.
Well, I'm trying to make a point, but so with
Okay.
So with Star Trek Deep Space Nine, I really enjoy that there wasn't that season. The first two seasons weren't garbage. They were good, and yes, there's a distinct shift from season 2 to season 3, and even more so from season 3 to season 4 with the Way of the Warrior and all that. But it was also really good on its own, and the shifts don't feel as jarring as they are in the other shows. Because it wasn't like suddenly the uniforms changed. It was a little bit more organic of a switch, and the episodes are just really good. Like, for example, there's a great episode where Garrick goes crazy, and then Bashir has to save him, but he also learns a lot of secrets about him, like maybe he was a member of the Obsidian Order or something. Maybe he was a super
I don't know what
spy.
any of these are.
And then he
Okay,
meets
he was a
his
space
dad.
spy?
And then he meets his dad at the end, or no. Bashir meets Garrick's old boss, who turns out is later his dad as well. And then he says, "Oh, I'll give you all the medical information you need to save him." Why? Oh, thank you. I'll be sure to know him, let him know that you still care for him. It's like, no, I don't think he should die quickly. I think he should suffer an ignominy for many years with you on that station. And that was really cool.
That's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, that's what Deep Space Nine is. It's kind of like gritty, more realistic Star Trek. It's not like where Enterprise just tried to be Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, but failed. But it's a bit more realistic. It's more grounded, but it's not, oh, we have to have violence and sex all the time, which I think is a really good balance, because normally a lot of these super realistic shows like Battlestar Galactica go too far, and they just become battle sex.
Yeah, because I
Galactica.
remember Battlestar became like basically just like it skirted the territory of being softcore porn, but also with CGI robots occasionally.
Yeah, and sexy organic robots.
But yeah, yeah.
So I think what we can learn from 90s TV shows like Babylon 5 and Babylon 5, not Battlestar Galactica, and Deep Space Nine is that you can be realistic and gritty without going all the way and doing this extreme that I think is a little bit silly.
Yeah.
So what have you been watching, Xavier?
I actually just got through the first season of Legion after wanting to watch it for a couple months now. Like, I recently stopped having cable, so I had to wait till it showed up on a streaming service to check it out. But it is probably my favorite superhero show that's on network television. Like,
It's not on network
stands
television,
out...
it's on cable television.
Yeah, well, yeah, cable television. It stands out, like, far and above over... like any of the CW shows and like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I'm gonna guess that it's gonna be better than Cloak and Dagger a couple months in advance. But yeah, it's if you like
Or what about
X-Men,
that X-Men show that's going to be on Fox with the pilot directed by Bryan Singer?
if it's anything like Legion, then I'm fucking super on board because
Also,
that was so well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know,
I highly recommend it. I think you being a bigger X-Men fan than I am, you should absolutely check out Legion.
You know, the funny thing is that I've actually seen Dan Stevens before, because I've watched a couple of the first 2 seasons of Downton Abbey, and he was actually kind of, tell me, like, he's kind of like sort of like a posh aristocrat, but he's not a full-blown aristocrat. He's sort of like a rich person who learned he was an aristocrat, and he's kind of like soft and polite, and it's all about like love triangles and stuff in that show. But it's like it's kind of weird because it's a soap opera, but it's a really good soap opera. So it's good enough that you don't care that it's just about all these issues of that stuff, because they do it in a really interesting way. So how is he different in Legion?
Yeah, his performance in Legion, he plays David Hollard, right?
He's the main character.
The main character. Yeah. That he is fantastic because he's just like such an intense and like creepy, multifaceted character. Like he's got so much going on, but you like start to really feel for him. And I gotta say, like, if I had gone in not knowing that his dad was Professor X, I think that the show would have been like even more interesting because they kind of drop that reveal on you in an interesting way. And if I didn't know that beforehand, I feel like that would have been one of those "oh shit, really?" moments. Like, sometimes I wish I hadn't read as many comic books as I have, because then when I watch shows like that, like, the big reveals don't quite hit as hard because I already know them.
Yeah, that's kind of funny because Downton Abbey is a very laid back show, and he had a very laid back performance in that. But now it's like he's doing this super intense, weird, crazy person insanity. That sounds interesting.
Well, I mean, the show itself is kind of crazy. It's got to be one of the most cinematic TV shows I've ever watched, because the cinematography is very... It's not like, standard TV cinematography where it's just place the camera anywhere, point it at what's happening. It seems like everything is very intentional in the show. The soundtrack is like very meticulously planned and fits extremely well for every scene it's put into. And I gotta say, like, the effects are really good for a TV show. There's a couple of like bad green screens around like the third episode, but for the most part, it's pretty good.
So here's my question, and answer this with a yes or no. Is it better than Marvel Netflix?
Honestly, as much as I absolutely love Daredevil and Jessica Jones, I think it might actually, for me, stand out a little bit above those, even, because it's just so different from anything I've ever seen before, based on like a comic book adaptation. Like, if I had to describe it, you know who Dr. Manhattan is from Watchmen, right?
I said it was a yes or no question, but I do know who that is.
The show is like trying to do Inception on Dr. Manhattan, and it's so weird and bizarre and different that I would say it's better just for the sake of I don't have a whole lot to compare it to.
Okay, cool. I think I'd love to discuss this this TV show at greater length, but we probably should be moving on by now. Okay, so here's going to be our new revised version of the headlines. So each of us from now on are going to pick 1 to 2 news stories a week to discuss, and the person who puts the articles in there is going to discuss them is going to tell us what it's about, and then we're going to discuss it individually. So each of us are going to have one story that we're just going to talk about briefly, and then one story that we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth. So first of all, I'm just going to talk about the Writers Guild negotiations rather quickly. So what's been happening is that over the past few months, the Writers Guild have been negotiating for a new contract, and let's just say that it came right down to the wire. They were about to strike, and the new deal was signed at very close to midnight before the deadline, and we're all pretty relieved. So the main issues was that the Writers Guild was concerned about reduced residuals and income from TV shows, because as you know, and you can attest to this too, newer TV shows have a lot fewer episodes than older TV shows. It's more like 8 to 13 instead of 20 to 26.
Yeah, so everyone's going for like
writers
tighter
are having
seasons than like the 25 episode
So
ones,
writers are getting reduced income, and they got a 15% increase in residuals, and they also got their health plan boosted. Of course, there were some other issues that they didn't have time to address, like a declining income for film writers because people are making less movies. But that's a discussion we need to have for another time because
That's
that's
something a lot more complicated.
That's very complicated.
But I'm glad we didn't have another writer's strike because those are always bad.
In
And
2007,
writers' strikes are the reason we get things like Revenge of the Fallen.
Transformers and Quantum of Solace. So we get nothing but bad movies. We need good writers, okay? That's what we can learn from this story is that writers may be at the bottom of the food chain in Hollywood, but without them, we would have nothing. So maybe when you're looking at the next movie and maybe you pay a little bit more attention to who writes it, it might be an interesting exercise. Now,
a lot of people talk about like directors and stuff, or like throw a lot of special attention to like the cast of a movie. But I think I always find myself like interested in finding out who like wrote the movie.
The writers are, and also
who the writers are, because a lot of the time that can make or break what's going on. Like if it has a good director and a good cast, but it's written by like Kurtzman and Orsi, that's ugh.
Or Lindelof, but more to the point, also, stay later on, because we're going to have another story about writers later on. Kind of cool. So, my next story is a bit more in-depth, so we're going to have a little bit more discussion about this. So, a couple months back, Paramount found its new CEO. Now, last year, they decided to fire Brad Gray, who was a best buddy of Brad Pitt, and co-founded their production company, but he was the CEO of Paramount for basically most of the 2000s. And in the last few years, if you know anything about Paramount, they have not done well. Let's see, 2016. Their biggest success was Arrival. And that was in a movie when they were supposed to have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 and Star Trek Beyond, but both of those...
Yeah, they're not even making a third Ninja Turtles movie.
Oh, and 10 Cloverfield Lane, like, their low-budget departments did really well, but their high-budget stuff did garbage. And this year, their biggest movie is Transformers 5, which, hey, it'll probably do well in China. So, it might be a little
Chinamen love their Transformers.
So, their new CEO is Jim Giannopoulos, who is an ex-20th Century Fox executive. And it's kind of interesting to see how things change around him. And we're going to see how these things change and evolve over time. For example, he has been on record saying... there's going to be a new SpongeBob animated movie, for example. What was the last one? I forget what the name was. But it was pretty successful.
Sponge Out of Water, I think.
Sponge Out of Water was fairly successful, so I think they're going to make another movie. And, of course, one of the newest moves is that the story we reported on last time, or if you're listening to this back last episode, sorry, excuse me, was World War Z 2. Is that under his reign, they're pushing to get that movie greenlit. And they're trying a bit harder to get David Fincher to sign on the dotted line for that sequel. Although...
Because he was, like, interested in it, but now he's kind of...
He hasn't signed on the dotted line, but there was the article that we reported on in Variety that says he's very close to a decision, and he's almost there. So maybe at this point they're discussing salary, because, that takes a while. Like when...
Yeah.
What's his name? The director of the War for the Planet of the Apes said, "Okay, I'll direct the Nightwing or whatever movie. I forget whatever movie he was going to direct."
Wasn't it Batman?
Yeah, it was the Batman.
Yeah, the guy who was directing Batman.
He said, I remember when I tried to do a news show by myself, I said, "Oh, he's going to direct the movie." Well, he's not. Oh, he is now. So it was fake news for about a week. Because he was in negotiations.
I love just shouting fake news at things.
He left, and then he came back when they offered him a bigger salary. So, yeah, that can be a big discussion.
That might happen with Fight Club Man.
Fincher has a big resume, and he is very respected in the town. So, he could demand a salary if he wants one. So, finally, my question is, can Paramount really recover at this point? Now, it's very close to... I
mean, after, that long losing streak, I don't know, man.
It's very close to securing a $1 billion co-financing agreement with Huahua Media and Shanghai Film Group, so I might have an infusion of cash pretty soon. So, who knows? For example, Alibaba Pictures was an investor on... Rogue Nation and Star Trek Beyond, as well as Huahua Media. So we'll have
Okay.
to see. Paramount's moving a lot more into international movies in China. For example, Transformers, their biggest in-house franchise, does very well overseas. And they also had Triple X, Return of Xander Cage, which did so well in foreign markets that it didn't even really need a US release. It only grossed 40 million of like 400 million in the US. So that's kind of interesting. We're going to see, cuz Paramount, and also they're embarking in a quest to revive their Paramount's TV divisions. For example, they're going to rebrand Spike as the Paramount Network. So we're going to see. It's possible, because I think Jim Giannopoulos is a lot stronger of a leader than Brad Grey was, or at least Brad Grey near the end. So we'll have to see. At least they have a CEO, because Sony still doesn't. Let's move on to your ideas then, Xavier. Take it away.
Some headlines I picked out from this week. Some rather simple ones. There's a lot of news coming out of the woodwork with the new Inhumans show. They even showed a teaser photo of what the team will look like, and releasing all kinds of new little tidbits about the show. And I gotta say, I'm not exactly excited, but I think that seems to be kind of the general consensus so far. Is like the internet has been pretty generally negative towards the new Inhumans thing. And I think that just happens to be...
It just feels kind of forced to me. For example, it was going to be a movie until what's his name?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Until Kevin Feige got Marvel Studios separated from Marvel Entertainment, so now he doesn't have to report to Ike Perlmutter. And Ike Perlmutter, CEO of Marvel, really wanted Inhumans. And then, Kevin
Ike
Feige,
Perlmutter was like really fighting over Inhumans because
Feige
he wanted
really
X-Men
didn't.
for a while.
And then they just pulled it quietly from the release date. And now since Ike Perlmutter is still in charge of Marvel TV, he's using his assets to finally get it made. And I'm not really all that excited because, let's be honest, it's a network ABC Marvel show. And I tried to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Now, it does have a few things going for it. And
so
it's
I'm
that
not
the first
that thrilled.
season only has 8 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of a delay in Discord where it keeps cutting us out, so it sounds like we're interrupting each other a lot. And I'm thinking we should just like record this in person or try to at some point and see how much of a difference it makes.
We'll see.
But anyway, so yeah, about Inhumans. It has an 8-episode season, which I think is great news because that means, you know, the pacing isn't going to be garbage and not stretched out like 30 episodes like most other superhero shows lately.
26? I think 26,
26 is like the cursed
show.
number. I cannot watch a 26-episode season.
Well, the only ones who did it well was Babylon 5 and some seasons of Star Trek.
Yeah, so 8 is a good number, and also I hear that because they're trying to make it higher budget than most TV shows, they're actually also going to give it a special release, where the first 2 episodes will be like stitched together and then released in IMAX. So it'll kind of be like a movie turning into a TV show. And I think that sounds kind of cool.
It's like when they released...
But at the same time, it's an ABC show, so, you know.
It's like how they screened a couple the Abominable Bride in theaters for Sherlock, but whatever. So now do your...
So
I'm not
you know
really
what
all that
sucks
excited.
is my dad is like a giant Inhumans fan. Like he's loved Black Bolt since he was like a little kid. That's like one of his favorite characters in Marvel. And like I just hope the Inhumans show doesn't suck because like I don't want him to get all disappointed because he's like if Marvel Studios is gonna start making obscure characters cool, I want them to do Inhumans and I want to see Black Bolt. But now Black Bolt looks like some guy in a leather suit
who just walked off the set
helmet.
of a CW production.
Yeah, he looks like he just walked out of Legends of Tomorrow. Like, his costume is so bland and just... Ugh. I hate TV show superhero costumes. They're always so half-assed, or they always are composed of, like, 90% leather. Like
they went to, like, their extras at a Matrix rave scene.
Exactly, yeah, right? I mean, if you saw that group photo that I sent you a couple months back of, I like that random superhero team from Legends of Tomorrow, and I just started sending like comparison photos of what those characters look like in comics. Something that just bugs me is that they keep stitching out they keep stripping out all the colors from the suits. If a character has a bright green suit, it's gonna be like one shade of green brighter than solid black.
Yay! So let's move on to your second news story. I think.
Reason. I don't know. Oh yeah, the other news story.
Do your second news story really quickly.
Quickly. Yeah, Edge of Tomorrow has a new title, and it's called or Edge of Tomorrow 2 has a new title, and it's called Live, Die, Repeat, and Repeat.
Yay! It's also supposed to be a prequel.
What's your thoughts on that title? It's a prequel and a sequel because Tom Cruise is going to be in it.
Although, do take this with a grain of salt, because I'm not convinced of the news source / film. It's not exactly a reputable
But I've seen a couple of different
take that one with a grain of salt.
About it.
So,
all right, well,
yay!
But one thing for sure though is Doug Liman, the director, sounds really super excited about it. So I guess I'll take his word for it.
Although, I'm not really all that excited about Tom Cruise being in it again. I'm more excited for more Emily Blunt.
Tom Cruise seems to be one of the factors that's like continually working against that movie.
I think she's a really good actress, and I think that she deserves better. She should have been Captain Marvel instead of Brie Larson.
Well, what? She got to be in that great movie everyone remembers, Sicario.
And she's also going to be in Mary Poppins in Mary Poppins Returns.
Is she going to be Mary Poppins?
Yeah, because she was also in that Disney musical Into the Woods, so she can sing.
All right, it's okay.
Into the woods without delay. Be careful not to lose the way.
I feel like Disney musical movies are what you go into when you can't get any other work that month.
Well, Disney music... I went into the Woods because there was literally nothing else at the theater, and I thought it was decent. Because it's not a Disney musical, it's a Disney adaptation of a Broadway musical, so it had a little bit more of a storytelling edge to it.
I saw the play version once at like this really weird indie playhouse place that was like... It was weird because like the stage was in the middle and there were seats on either side of it, so the actors were constantly having to switch directions so their back wasn't to the audience. And they didn't have prop knives. They just had Little Red Riding Hood pull out a real life steak knife and start waving it around on stage, and everyone got kind of freaked out, and it was great.
Woo! What fun! So Edge of Tomorrow 2, I'll wait until I hear more to make an opinion on it. But I'm probably gonna see it regardless. It's like one of those sequels for movies that you just think, man, I'd like more of that. Like Kingsman or stuff, or something of that nature, where it's just something like an underdog that you kind of root for.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, and then it had such a hard time upon its initial release that it had to unofficially change its title.
It went to almost 400 million worldwide, which is pretty decent.
It's kind of like the ideal scenario for a movie like that, where it starts off really rough, but over time kind of like word of mouth spreads.
It also did really well overseas.
Yeah. I wish Dredd had that kind of...
Because Tom Cruise has a big overseas following. It's kind of like how Vin Diesel is a bigger star overseas than he is in the U.S. It's like Tom Cruise...
Do people in China like Vin Diesel more than people in America do?
Yeah, they love Vin Diesel.
That's hilarious.
He is a huge star over there. He's about on the level of, like, Donnie Yen over there.
He should just start... You know what? Vin Diesel, if you're listening, and I'm sure you are, you're one of my many subscribers, you should learn Chinese and just start doing foreign films only. It'll be the best career decision you've ever made.
Yeah, and plus we won't have to see him anymore.
Speaking Chinese, that would be great.
We won't have to see him anymore because I'm sick of Vin Diesel movies.
I'm sick of The Rock. I mean, I know a lot of people like The Rock, but I feel like whenever The Rock is in a movie, it just feels like it just denotes not being a quality movie. It's just like generic, something dumb that they threw together. Yeah.
So yeah, I'd love to talk about this more, but I think we need to move on to our featured story of the day, because that's what we're supposed to be discussing, right? So,
Yeah.
this was a smaller news story that picked up this week, but I think it deserves some deeper discussion, because it brings up a larger issue. So, the Gears of War movie is now officially in pre-production, because Shane Salerno, a screenwriter, has been set to write officially, and it's set up at Paramount, I think? I don't know. Let me look that up quickly. Gears of War.
Now, while he's doing that, I'll throw in my 2 cents. I didn't play all of the Gears of War games.
It's at
Universal.
Universal.
Okay.
Because Universal.
I only played the 3rd one because I wanted to have an Xbox 360 that was red and black and had a skull on it, and it just happened to come with that game. And I played 80% of it. No, in fact, it's shocking how terrible and unengaging the story is in Gears of War.
So tell me, only through references to other things, what is it? Like, is it this mixed with this, or what?
It's geez, that's a rough one. I really don't think there's a lot I can compare it to, which I guess I'll give it points for originality, but basically it's about a bunch of guys trying to fight aliens on a planet that's not Earth, and every character has biceps bigger than their head, and everything has a chainsaw attached to it, and everything... It's basically like... Imagine a planet where everything is just testosterone. Like
okay,
the Earth is 70% water. The planet from Gears of War is 70% testosterone.
Okay, sounds dumb. So, this is being set up at Universal, which is interesting because Universal, I think, is the #1 studio that can challenge Disney. Now, Warner Brothers has the potential, but they still need to figure things out. But Universal has the Bourne franchise that they just revived. It has Fast and Furious, which just notched the biggest worldwide opening of all time. It has the 50 Shades films. It's a very successful animation division that's challenged Disney with Illumination Entertainment and now DreamWorks. So they are in good shape to challenge Disney. Although you will remember that other high-profile video game adaptation that came out of Universal last year, which was
Assassin's Creed?
Warcraft. Assassin's Creed was over at Fox. Warcraft, I don't think you saw it, right?
I did not. My mom
it.
did because she likes those games, kind of.
I saw it, and so I can talk about that. Like, my problem with Warcraft was that it felt like there were several problems. Like, for example, the world building was terrible. It's like...
Well, because it was to my understanding that it was based on a novel, right? Like an extended universe sort of novel.
I don't know. But, like, the entire world building was just like, hey, look, it's a fantasy world. Remember Lord of the Rings? Because we have orcs and elves like they do. And they never really explained the world that much. And my other problem was one that I think I can blame the director for, because he wanted to have a fantasy film with layers. So that means he has a good orc and a good human as the main characters. And they sort of, like, team up, and they all have their own, like, supporting casts. So my problem with that was that there were 2 separate main characters, one of who had an interesting backstory and interesting motivations. That was the orc, played by Toby Kebbell or something?
Tobey Maguire, yeah, that's who.
No. The guy who played Dr. Doom. Played by him.
Toby Kebbell.
Yeah, Toby Kebbell. Played by him. And then there was the good human who had all the agency and did things, but he was also a really boring character, played by Travis Fimmel from Vikings, I think. And the problem was that one character was well developed, and one character actually did things. So they kind of split main character duties amongst these 2 separate guys, so neither was really the main character. because one was developed and was a nuanced character.
Idea for how to do it, but how is the execution of that?
It's like it was a good idea to have a nuanced, like a good orc and a good human and bad humans and bad orcs, but the whole thing of having one character that is a boring person but does things, so he has the agency of a main character, and the other person having the motivation and the backstory but not the actual like agency of a main character felt
like
kind
he's
of
just
confusing.
Standing around going, I sure am interesting, but I don't feel like doing anything right now.
Yeah, basically that's what it was. So I kind of blame the director for that because he wanted to have a film with layers, but also they didn't really. So I would actually be open to seeing a sequel to Warcraft because I feel like this movie is backstory to a much more interesting story. For example, the orc who's interesting died, but then the human who wasn't interesting had the backstory set in this movie for a much more interesting character arc in the next movie. For example, his family died and now he's kind of on his own and his kingdom is in ruins and everything, so it's a much more interesting character. But it felt like there were more interesting things to come than there was actually going on. So I'm curious if Gears of War will do any better. Now, I'm not sure about this writer.
I don't know, because it just doesn't seem to have a whole lot of like plot going on.
But
it's
you can
here's a bunch of tough guys fighting a bunch of aliens.
With a good writer, you could come up with that, but I don't think that Shane Salerno is all that good. For example,
I remember they got a guy to write the plot for Gears of War 3 who had done novels in the past, and it didn't help. Like
here's his resume, for example. He's a co-writer on some of the Avatar sequels, so he has a lot of buzz right now. But in the past, he wrote Armageddon for J.J. Abrams. He wrote Ghostbusters? What? I'm gonna have to look that up. And then he also was a ghostwriter or a script doctor on Alien vs. Predator. And then he's also been a writer-producer on the Hawaii Five-0 reboot. So yeah, not exactly... So not exactly the best resume, if I'm being honest. Let's see.
Yeah, that's kind of consistently not that great.
It's not Ghostbusters. He wrote Ghost Rider, or he was one of the writers on Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider with Nicolas Cage, or Ghost Rider as in ghost person who writes?
Ghost Rider with Nicolas Cage.
Oh God!
So he wrote Armageddon for one, which is lovely.
Armageddon by Michael Bay?
Yeah.
That movie is hilarious. Like, it is so...
So maybe he can write...
It's the most bro movie I've ever watched. Like,
so maybe
more so
he can
than
make
any Fast and Furious
So maybe
movie.
he's gonna make another bro movie with Gears of War.
You know what? It's perfect for him then. Now that I think about that, they got the right guy.
Oh boy, that's gonna be exciting. Now we're gonna move on to our next segment, which is movie reviews. And this is gonna be an interesting topic because I recently saw John Wick 2. And Xavier was really excited for John Wick 2, but he's only seen John Wick 1. He hasn't seen it. So I thought it'd be interesting to have us compare notes. Because he can talk about the first one, and I can talk about the second one. We can have some interesting discussions with that. So, go ahead. Tell me about John Wick 1.
Well, John Wick 1 is a very interesting action film just because it's kind of unique in the fact that it's very simple. It's just a good old revenge story. It feels like a movie out of like the 80s, you know? It starts off with a guy who seems fairly normal, who's in a really rough place in his life. Things aren't going well, and then things start looking up for a little bit, and then they drop even harder, and things... I mean, if you're someone who's squeamish about the concept of animals getting hurt, I won't watch that movie. But, then he goes on, like, you find out about his backstory, and he's actually some kind of, like, ex-mob enforcer / like, assassin or whatever. And, he has to go figure out a way to get back into the seedy underworld of crime in the city he lives in after being retired for a long time. And then just goes on this really amazing rampage of just, like, more unique ways of running around murdering everyone who wronged him at the beginning of the movie. and it's just like really, it's really fun, and it's got some great choreography. And I also like to point out that some of the cinematography is also very well put together. Like, you could take a lot of screenshots from that movie that just look very pretty. And I think it's the first movie in a while where Keanu Reeves actually seemed like, he wasn't horribly miscast, because he was playing a character who is kind of quiet and reserved, but he only has maybe like one or two scenes where he really gets to shine. And he was pretty intense in one scene, and I really liked how crazy and in your face he got. And from what I hear, that's not really how the sequel went.
So, tell me something. What did you imagine of the backstory for this guy? And tell me what you imagine the backstory of this guy, and like his world and his role in this underground world. And like, did they make any mention of like the High Table or the Continental or any of that?
I can't remember every specific term since it's been a little while, but isn't the Continental the hotel he stays at?
Well, one of them.
Okay, yeah, because I know that there's this hotel that
was Ian McShane in it?
Yes, he was.
Okay, good. He was in the sequel too. I love Ian McShane. He's
pretty. He's kind of underrated. He's like a really intense guy.
So John Wick 2, they basically said, the opening scene was basically him getting his car back, and then after that it's like, oh hey, remember he lost his wife? And he's sad.
That was a very small part of the first movie. Like, no, it was like barely in there.
Like one scene where he went home. He had a depressing, mopey shower. He listened to his a voicemail of his wife, and he looked at a couple of pictures. And then suddenly the plot arrived where this Italian guy wanted him to do a thing for him.
Okay, because what I remember from the first movie is that he's like reeling from the death of his wife, and then I guess we'll get into spoiler territory now. If you haven't seen the movie John Wick 1, I recommend it. Go do that. But basically, his wife gets him a dog as a gift, to remember her by, that like a puppy, because she passes away from cancer, I think. And he spends like a couple of scenes just like kind of like learning how to love again with this dog, like, that sleeps in his bed, and he cleans up his poop and gets him kibble from the store, and drives him around in his cool fast car, right? And it's really sweet and cute. And then it takes a turn when suddenly like some thuggish guy who's like some mobster's son goes, "Hey, I like your car. Do you want to sell it to me?" And John Wick replies with basically, "Just go fuck yourself. No, it's my car," and then goes home. And then later that same guy comes back with a crew of people and just smashes up Wick's house, beats him up, kills his dog, and then steals his car.
Smashes
and that sends him into like a crazy murderous rage.
Okay, because
they smash his house up.
He blows his house up in the sequel with a rocket launcher.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. He did have a dog. He had a dog in the sequel too, but it didn't die. Like, the sequel is basically, hey, look, John Wick, you got rid of that last mission. You good. You got your car back. Now you're in retirement. Oh, no, turns out this guy, you owe a debt to him through this poorly explained marker thing that you were not going to really talk about. So, hey, you need to go to Italy and kill someone. And then he goes to Italy and kills someone. And then he has to deal with the consequences of that. And it's kind of weird because, like, the first movie sounds like a really simple story. It's just a classic revenge movie. Like,
well, because it's got kind of like an interesting, sort of complicated, like, sort of lore for how this crime syndicate works. And
it's even more complicated than the sequel.
It doesn't matter too much. It's just like a background thing, and it's kind of interesting when you do see it.
The sequel was all about that.
That was like my least favorite part. Like,
the sequel
it was more so the action
all
scenes
about
and
that.
The
entire plot was
like,
plot. Oh look, there's this other crime lord who has this thing that, according to the rules of this underground assassin world, you have to do whatever he says. Now you have to go and kill this person who is on this council, who is like the leaders of this underground assassin world. And now because you killed him, this person has an honor-bound debt to kill you. But but he can't kill you because you're on the grounds of the hotel that the crime syndicate owns in Italy. So you're gonna have drinks and you're gonna pay for it with this weird coin. Although my favorite scene in the movie was when Keanu Reeves got to Italy and he was going around to all these different people and paying them with these weird gold coins, and he got all this cool
thing
stuff.
From the first movie.
He got this. He was going around to all these people and getting all this cool stuff, like getting equipped for his assassin job, and that was cool. But like,
okay,
the lore and the whole plot of this assassin world just got really, really complicated and intricate.
I mean, it was kind of interesting in the first one just because it wasn't really the center focus. It's just like, yeah, you go to this special hotel,
it was the center focus,
and then you pay with a weird special currency that's specific to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But then, like, what the hell was going on with the sequel where that becomes, like, the whole point
and
of
then
everything?
he goes to Italy, and Italy is it's kind of cool because they didn't cheap out and have Canada or Australia or the UK or New Zealand stand in for,
like, they actually
Italy.
filmed in Italy.
They filmed in Italy, in Rome, and it looked amazing. One thing that I think was really good about the sequel was that, like, imagine if, like, Nicholas Winding Refn, you saw his movie The Neon Demon, if they applied that aesthetic to an action movie.
That would be great.
Gorgeous. Like, there was an entire scene, like, underneath a rave in Italy where they had all these, like, fog lights in this cavern, and they were all these different colors, and it was really cool because it was like this fog light that was illuminating a whole room in this sort of like hazy blue glow, and you see the lights playing on different people's faces, and the whole finale takes place in this room, like modern art exhibit that's full of like neon lights and mirrors, and it just looked amazing. Like, the visuals were awesome. But,
well, I mean, something we can talk about is that the director of this is also working on that other movie.
No. Only the director of the first movie is going to work on Deadpool. No, like, what happened?
No, I was talking about the other one, the Atomic Blonde.
Atomic Blonde? Hello?
Right?
What?
It appears Discord has glitched out and I can no longer hear you.
So, the second,
now I can.
The second movie was directed by Chad Stahelski, I think.
Okay.
And the first movie was directed by David Leitch and Chad Stahelski. So David Leitch is going off to direct Atomic Blonde and then Deadpool 2, but Chad Stahelski isn't. He's probably going to direct John Wick 3. Because, hey, you know, the first movie did $80 million worldwide on a budget of 20, which is really good numbers. But the sequel did $160 million on a budget of $40 million, which is even better numbers. Hello? Discord?
What? You cut out for a second, but now I can hear you again. What?
I was just saying that John Wick basically doubled the gross and the budget of the first movie. Like 20 million versus 40 million to 20 million for the budget, and 160 to 80. So it maintained the same ratio.
Did you think it deserved it though? Like, how was the sequel overall?
Well, it felt like a video game. It felt like a video game because in that the main character doesn't really have any personality to him, and it's just there to be a person who's going to shoot people on screen.
So he was basically like Gordon Freeman for the second
Kinda,
one.
yeah, because like, they had that one scene at the beginning of the movie where it's like, oh no, he lost his wife, but after that he doesn't really get a lot of like personality, because he's very underplayed. He doesn't say a lot. And when he does say a lot, he doesn't really say a lot.
Okay. Well, because I remember he was pretty quiet in the first movie, but he had this one really great scene where he's being interrogated.
Yeah.
By the main bad guy, and after they like kind of push his buttons and say some stuff that pisses him off, he just starts like screaming about how he's gonna murder all of them, and he starts like describing his plan to do so, and talking about how everyone keeps asking me if I'm back, but I haven't really had an answer, but I guess I am, and he's just like, he looks like he's like losing his mind, and he's about to like eat everyone.
So he yells.
And I was like, wow, that's a really intense, great.
He doesn't yell in this movie. He doesn't go over a whisper. Like, at the end when he says, they're going to come after me, he says, Tell them I'll kill them. I'll kill them all.
I could totally imagine it too. The way you said that, I could tell them I'll kill them. Like, yeah, Keanu Reeves.
Like he barely speaks over he only speaks in what your mom would like to call an inside voice. So it's kind of funny, and it's not like a movie I would watch again, because, I mean, there might be a lot of replay value in the action scenes, but I didn't really find it all that satisfying as a movie. But, you know,
Fair
whatever.
enough. I want to see the sequel now, just because I'm curious to see, like,
Although, like
does it fall off
like,
really hard from quality?
There was supposed to be
no?
there was this scene where he was, maybe it's just my opinion is coloring it, but that's the interesting thing about this. Like, we're looking at it from two different perspectives. Like, in the second movie, I remember there was this scene where it's like he was supposed to be angry and like mean against, like, sort of getting really, really angry at this guy, and I just imagine, like, the director off screen going, "You can do it, Keanu, just be angry,
You can do it, Keanu,
angry,
I believe in
angry,
you.
I believe in you, you can do it, get angry, Keanu." Is like, we're running out of money, cut, we'll use that take, it's not good, but...
It reminds me of when I was on the set of an independent film, and every couple of minutes the director was like, "Hey, how much data do we have left on the card?" Because they were working with like a really expensive digital camera, and every 5 seconds they were like, "Hey, how much?" Because I guess it still had like an SD card in it taking footage, and they were like worried it was gonna run out of memory every second. So it's like, hey. Hey, do we have like 3 gigs left? Is that... No? Okay. Alright, we're gonna have to cut.
Okay.
Sorry, Keanu, just that was good enough.
That was good enough. So, we'll move on to our last segment for the day, which is editorials. Now, in the future, we might we're gonna probably replace this segment with fan questions if you want to add any, but of course we don't have any yet because we're going to release this episode and the first episode at the same time concurrently. So...
Have fun editing this one. There's a lot of weird spots where we just start getting super off topic.
I'm not going to edit that. I mean, I feel like if people just want to listen to us having a conversation about movies, we can just have a conversation about movies. And besides, I don't have time to edit this and Couch Potatoes and video reviews. I mean, I want to get back to
Are you at least going to fix
editing.
the spots at the beginning where we kept yelling at each other?
No, I'm going to leave those in.
Oh, okay. All right, good.
So, we're going to move on. So, do you want to do yours first? Or yeah, you do.
Yeah, I'll go first.
Go first. Because I've been going first, and I want to finish this off, because I think mine is a better way to end.
Yeah. Yours seems to be kind of like a deeper topic than mine. I just want to remind everyone that, I forgot. Let's check. Yes. Here it is. Wonder Woman releases, June 2nd.
I don't care.
Did anyone realize that we were that close to the release of that movie? Because it is getting no ads and no hype.
Also, I wanted
nobody's
to say
talking about
that's
it.
probably going to change because just yesterday, Chris Pine hosted SNL, and Chris Pine is of course one of the big stars of Wonder Woman alongside Gal Gadot, and I feel like they're sort of gearing up for that now.
It's weird that it's less than a month from release, and I forgot that it existed.
You know, I think I'm more excited for Chris Pine in that movie than Gal Gadot, because I think, like, he's doing the Agent Carter role from Captain America, but he seems a little bit more interesting.
It's funny how much of like a weird like gender reversal this is.
So he's not
First
Steve
Avenger.
Trevor, he's Steve Carter. And of course, I think it's kind of interesting because he's more of an interesting character than what's her name Carter was from the first Captain America. Because she was just like, "Oh look,
she was
I'm the love
enough
interest,"
to get a
and
spin-off show that no one talks about.
Nobody really cared about that show anyway. It's an ABC Marvel show. Nobody watches those.
I mean, I do. I'm rooting for them to get really good, and sometimes they get sort of close to being good,
so let's
and I'm
talk
like,
about
all right.
Wonder Woman more and what like.
Okay, well, it's weird how little hype has been drawn up for it. Like, no one's talking about it on social media. I have not seen an advertisement for it in like 3 months.
They're on.
Maybe.
I saw.
The only reason I realized it existed is because I saw someone retweet something from Gal Gadot where she was
Gal Gadot
saying, "Is it Gadot or Gadot?"
Gadot, because she's Israeli.
You're Israeli. Anyway, but
Well, my name is David.
yeah, she posted who's excited for the movie, and I was like, wait, is it coming out that close? June 2nd, really?
June, yeah. Although I did see Wonder Woman on your favorite soda can brand in the store the other day.
Oh yeah, that's.
So I feel like it's.
I just looked over at the Dr. Pepper sitting on my desk here, and it's got a Wonder Woman on the side of it.
I blame you. It's your fault. You don't pay enough attention to women in movies, bro.
So I think, could we make the assumption that DC is like kind of not confident about the movie and are just kind of downplaying it with the assumption that it's not going to do well?
I don't know, because after Suicide Squad and Batman vs. Superman, I'm not sure if they can keep up the bubble of bad movies that people get excited for, so I don't know. It's either they're hoping, maybe also it's that Ghost in the Shell didn't do well, and they're thinking, oh no, another female-led action movie is not doing well. Well, it's too late to get rid of ours, because it's already in post-production, and we've already spent $100 million on it, so maybe we're going to cut our losses and just release it quietly instead. But who knows?
Dump it on the audience without saying anything.
So let's see what happens in the future.
We were talking about
like
weird
Chris
Hollywood
Pine,
logic of a female-led superhero movie. Well, kind of. But a female-led action movie comes out and doesn't do well. Where instead of maybe it's just inherently not a great movie, doesn't come to mind to executives. They all just go, okay, so females don't sell. Like, this weird bizarro world logic.
Yeah, sometimes they just don't exist in the same world that we do, but we'll have to see, because Chris Pine appeared on SNL, and that's kind of like a sign, because stars only host SNL if they have a movie coming up. So, let's see. We're gonna see what happens, and we're gonna hope for the best. Kay.
Yeah, I guess that's all we can really, that's all we can really do now.
Because I think Gal Gadot was probably the best part of, like, Batman vs. Superman. Because, like, her plot wasn't the least insulting and stupid. And it was also, like, the most interesting because she had a lot of mystery to her.
Yeah, I mean, she had a couple of snappy lines. Seemed to have more personality than most characters in that movie. And she also checked her email, and that was the conclusion of her subplot.
And then she went
checked her email.
Now she's best buds with Batman in Justice League.
And now her and Batman, I ship it. Okay, I watched that Bruce Timm cartoon from the early 2000s. I think Batman and Wonder Woman should be a couple. Damn it!
I think that
my
Superman
voice.
And Wonder Woman being a couple is really boring because.
Well, because they're
the same person.
Both so overpowered. Like when
there's a
guy who's a normal guy who's a billionaire who's super tough, and a lady from like a magic other dimension, basically.
There's a bit more of an interesting dynamic there.
Yeah, when it's just I'm a super tough person who's not from Earth. Hey, I'm also a super tough person who doesn't hang out with humans a lot. Okay. Like, what do they have to talk about?
Are you talking about Aquaman or Wonder Woman?
Wonder Woman... There's a lot of people on the Justice League team that are just, like, weirdos from outside of, normal society.
Who thought that Ezra Miller would be the most normal Justice Leaguer?
You're right.
I love that. But now let's move on, I think, unless you have anything else to say, Xavier. Good?
I hope that Wonder Woman doesn't suck, because I want DC movies to start being successful.
And
both critically and financially.
Female-led action movies can be good, too. Let's hope this one was good. I mean, the closest...
Exactly, yeah. So,
the closest, there's not been a single good female-led superhero movie ever.
Well, what are you talking about, you sexist? Catwoman was great with Halle Berry. That was like the greatest movie of all time.
Let's see, Supergirl, Catwoman.
I died a little from saying
Elektra.
Oh God.
Tank Girl. I mean, the closest I can think of one was like Mad Max with Furiosa in
Remember Barbed Wire?
With what was it? Pamela Anderson from Baywatch.
Yeah, fuck that movie. Why are there so many attempts at a stripper superhero? It never works.
So let's see, because it's Wonder Woman, and then it's gonna be Captain Marvel, and if we want to count if we want to count it because they're both in the title, it's Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I'm excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp.
That one's gonna be good.
Because I liked Ant-Man 1.
So now let's talk about.
Yeah.
Speaking of Disney Marvel, I'm gonna be talking about Disney. Now this is how we're gonna end our episode, and I'm gonna be talking about something that's a little bit personal to me. Like, maybe you haven't seen that much of me, but amongst my friends, particularly like Josh and people like that, they think that I hate Disney a lot. Like, they make fun of me a lot because I hate Disney. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to talk a little bit more about it, because I had a thought. Like, do you remember when you summoned me down to your choir class for no reason? And then I was just sitting around, and while you were gone,
Mom.
that girl, what's her name? The junior.
Miranda.
Oh yeah, her. It's like we brought up, oh, he doesn't like Disney or Star Wars, and then she was like, why? Why don't you like that?
Yeah, she had this like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, like that.
So, you had the plague.
I sort of thought, like, yeah, why do I like that? And do you know, you'll really like this. I came to an answer. That was why. Her reaction. That's why I hate Disney.
Oh, I was not expecting that. Elaborate, sir.
Allow me to explain, because, like, Disney movies are a brand that people love. People, like, you're not going to go to a Warner Brothers movie and think, oh, I love me some Warner Brothers. I'm going to go see a Warner Brothers movie like San Andreas. But Disney has a brand. It has
no one has that kind of, like, brand love.
It's a household name. Like, you think of Disney, something.
Well, you just think of childhood.
Your childhood's gonna come to mind. Well, not for me, because I grew up with Star Trek, but, you know.
Yeah,
I'm weird.
Okay, from the perspective of someone who grew up with a lot of Disney movies on VHS, the word just brings together, like, memories of watching all those movies with my cousins or my parents, like, just day in, day out, or just marathoning shows on the Disney Channel. Like I have a lot of fond memories of that stuff.
So,
granted, I don't have much interest in it now, but it has nostalgia value.
The fan base is why I hate Disney, because it's come to the point where Disney is almost like such a cult that if you're a Disney fan, you're gonna go and see the new Disney movie and you're gonna like it, no matter how crappy it is, unless it's like Mars Needs Moms or something. So, the bar...
Well, yeah, because I went out with a date recently with a girl who has a bunch of Disney tattoos, and when we were, like, trying to figure out what to do, I kind of predicted exactly what was going to happen, but I said, hey, let's go out and watch a movie together. And then she was like, all right, what do you want to watch? And I just listed out some stuff that was coming out that week, and she immediately kind of gravitated towards Beauty and the Beast. And, like...
Yeah, it's like...
I tried to steer her towards another movie, and she seemed to be, like, woefully disinterested in anything other than Beauty and the Beast.
Because it's a Disney movie.
It's the same movie we saw already, but live action now. And we ended up watching that one, and it was boring.
So, that's the reason that I hate Disney, because, like... not only is it the willingness that Disney fans are willing to turn off their minds and enjoy something just because it's Disney and blindly defend it and blindly love it because it's Disney, but it's because they expect me to do that too. Like, when I don't like Star Wars, or when I don't like Disney, or when I don't like a Marvel movie, they're all Disney brands. It's automatically that reaction. What is wrong with me? I mean, it's not necessarily that I disliked Frozen or I dislike Star Wars as much, like, hyperbolic portions to the amount where I hated that movie, and that's why I hate it. I mean, I just had my problems with Frozen. I had my problems with Star Wars, and I had my problems with a Marvel movie. But when I bring those up, it's this vitriolic reaction. Like, you are a crazy person. What is wrong with you? And that
it's
makes
gotten
me
to the
hate
point
Disney.
where it feels like, I mean, I don't necessarily just like hate them. They just don't interest me that much. But I see you get a lot of backlash when you say that kind of stuff around people.
And that's...
Like it's Disney movies or anything with that sort of branding on it is like above criticism at this point. Like whenever you have something negative to say, people are like, "Oh, you're just a hater."
Yeah, and that's why I hate Disney movies, because I don't know, like, me personally, I'm sorry I used that phrase from Red Letter Media, but personally...
For me personally...
I value independence of thought. I think that you can disagree with me as much as you want. Like whatever you want, as long as you've thought about it and you have a reason for it beyond it's just Disney. And... If you're just going
you have to like the movie because it's a good movie, not because it has a special sticker written on top of it that says it's a Disney movie.
Or a Star Wars movie. Or a Marvel movie. Any of that.
Exactly.
And I hate that. And that's why I hate Disney, because I'm expected to like it. And that attitude, I'm going to speak my mind. I like to speak my mind about things. I like to play devil's advocate. I like to criticize things just because it comes up with an interesting discussion and you think about things in different ways. But if I try and do that about a Disney movie or a Star Wars movie or a Marvel movie, my head gets chewed off. And that's why I hate Disney. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, that makes sense. You know what? I think this is the first time you've ever kind of explained this in a way that absolutely makes 100% sense. Like I'm totally on board with you. And you know what? Speaking of that recent encounter with Beauty and the Beast, what kind of annoyed me was after we watched it, she revealed that it was her third time seeing it, and she just didn't want to see any other movie. Like, she had watched it like twice that weekend prior, and I was like, well, here's all kinds of other movies we could watch, and she shut down all of them. In favor of going to watch Beauty and the Beast again. And I felt almost kind of like ripped off because money's been really tight lately and I haven't been able to get a lot of like movie tickets. And there's a lot of movies I really would like to see, but I could only afford to go to one of them for like 3 months, and I ended up spending my money on fucking Beauty and the Beast to placate someone who had neglected to tell me that she had already seen it twice. So that's why I didn't see John Wick 2, everybody.
Yay!
Would anyone like to donate $13 so I could go see Guardians of the Galaxy 2? Yes, no, maybe? Or you could just send it to this email Patreon here. That's Godzilla Mendoza needs to see movies. Just send her over that way.
So
I'm kidding.
I guess you could say like my reaction to Disney is sort of like, again, I'm sort of trying to play the devil's advocate. Like, other people are saying Disney is a god and it's perfect and there's nothing wrong with it. And I'm going the opposite way to say that it's terrible. And then perhaps my opinion and their opinion will mix and then we'll get to some sort of truth. Like, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here with that because I like to question things. I like to question, is this really good?
Like, Disney is subject to the same sort of fanboyism as a lot of superhero movies. Like, Marvel fans and DC fans are so zealous and in your face about how much they like their respective movies that they're constantly arguing. If anyone says something negative about a Marvel movie, they're an idiot. If someone says something negative about a DC movie, they're an idiot. They're always calling each other a if you say something negative about a DC movie, you're a Marvel fanboy, and vice versa.
And that's even come into
sort
critics
of like,
and critical
why can't
discussions.
you just criticize a movie that has some problems, like it was lazily made or had weird pacing?
Like,
stuff?
you don't have to. I mean, it's even come into critical discussions about this stuff. Like, other critics are calling out other critics saying, "Oh, you're the anti-DC agenda or you're the anti-Marvel agenda," and it's just unprofessional. And that's why I dislike this stuff, like this sort of fanboy groupthink mentality. And that's what I hate about Disney, especially because they're the biggest.
They're the biggest offender of that sort of thing.
The biggest offender, and it's very profitable for them to cultivate this cult-like mentality. But it has some consequences because I think that you should go out and see some new movies. Try something different. I like movie studios like Fox that try new things with their properties, like R-rated Marvel movies or like different sort of comic book movies, and or studios like Universal that try video game movies. I like trying new things, and I don't think Disney
exactly.
ever does that.
Like, some of the best movies that have come out in the past couple of years have just been, like, weird stuff that you wouldn't think would be that good.
Kingsman?
But then, yeah, they took a huge risk, and then they went for it. And, like, yeah, like,
10
all of my
Cloverfield
favorites,
Lane?
anyway, have just been weird
Mad
risks
Max?
that the studio took.
Like Mad Max, 10 Cloverfield Lane, Kingsman. Kingsman 2 looks cool. Logan was amazing.
Yeah,
and while I had
Logan turned out fantastic.
While I had serious problems with Deadpool, I appreciate that it tried something new.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think that's why it did so
again,
well.
like, try and support movies
that are different,
not because of the
new.
branding on them, just because, hey, that looks like a good movie.
And I realize the hypocrisy of saying that I hate Disney because I go and see Marvel movies all the time. But
yeah,
I don't hate Disney for their movies. I just hate Disney for their brand. So I'll go and see a Disney movie, but
absolutely fair.
I just won't see every single
demonize
Disney movie.
you at all for that.
So I hope
no condemnation here, friendo.
See, Josh, I'm not a crazy person.
Okay, all right. Well, that seems to be all the time we have for today. I think today was a pretty solid recording session.
Yeah, I think it was better than last time, definitely.
Yeah, I'm excited to see you take 6 weeks to edit this.
I won't take 6 weeks to edit this because I'm not going to cut anything from it.
Oh, God.
I'm not going to cut
anything.
You're
not going to cut anything?
No.
Well, hold on. Before we head out, one. Just hard cut out. I couldn't hear anything you said. It's doing that same thing from episode 1.
I couldn't hear anything as well. What are you going to say?
One.
One what?
Then you say 2. 1.
Oh, yeah, right. You need to sync it out. Okay, go ahead. Start.
1.
2.
1.
1.
1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. It keeps cutting out.
Start it.
Okay,
start again.
1
2
3
4
5
6
7
8
9
10.
There you go. Now you can. I was doing you a favor.
Oh yeah, thanks, because I forgot that. I also forgot to do that in my Let's Play, so that's going to be fun, syncing the audio for that.
So, just wait until you have a reactionary moment to something where you go, what? And then try and sync that up. Or wait till something spooky happens and you go, whoa! And then sync it to that.
So yeah, I'm excited, because we're experimenting with more of this, like, original, like more, like, conversational stuff that we're doing, like my Let's Play and like this. And I think, and of course that started with Couch Potatoes, but I'm kind of liking this more conversational direction, because I don't have to take as strong of a stance. I just need to talk about things and have a discussion and be constructive in that way. And I think that's cool, because that's not something you see a lot.
I'm excited for it. Are we gonna keep our plans for that thing for next week that we talked about earlier today? Because I think that would be really fun.
What?
That special big project for next week?
Wait, what?
That week-long thing?
What did we talk about?
There, I typed it to you so I don't spoil it.
Oh yeah, I remember that now. That sounds cool.
Let's do that. That'll be fun.
Yeah!
Alright, everyone, look out for something cool next week. It'll be neat.
Yeah, it's exciting because summer's
almost
almost here, and I'm not going to have as many classes for the next couple weeks, so I'm going to be able to actually do more videos and stuff.
Perfect.
Yay!
All right,
semester
see you later,
senior year
folks.
for both of us. We're going to be graduating soon.
Oh, God, now I have to go to college.
Yeah,
Alright, my dinner's getting cold.
What kind of a loser goes to college?
Yeah, what kind of loser goes to college in a tiny town in like halfway across the state?
Well, I'm comfortable in saying that it's in Michigan. I'm not halfway across the state. It's halfway across the
mine
country.
is. Mine's in kind of the middle of nowhere.
Since when is that part of Colorado a tiny town? Like, That's one of the major population centers of the metro area.
Last time I drove over there, it seemed kind of desolate.
Well,
maybe it's just because I drove through the part that wasn't gentrified yet.
It's desolate, but it's also populated.
Oh, okay.
Because, like...
Well, there you go.
Are you comfortable with saying where we live in terms of generalness?
Well, I feel like we live in the Midwest.
I've already said on my Twitter what state I live in, so, you know.
Oh, yeah. Well, I accidentally slipped during the Outlast Let's Play, so...
Oh, well.
I don't know. I might cut that part
Outlast
out. We'll
Let's Play?
Alright, see you later, everyone. Bye.
Bye!